Asia, a continent with a rich tapestry of history, culture, and tradition, faced a significant turning point with the advent of Western occupation. This shift began in the 15th century, the dawn of an era that would forever change the face of Asian societies. The Western powers, primarily Britain, France, and Portugal, embarked on a journey of exploration, conquest, and trade, setting their sights on the vibrant and prosperous lands of Asia. Among the first regions to experience Western occupation was the state of Malacca, a flourishing trade hub on the Malay Peninsula. The Portuguese, captivated by its strategic location and wealth, took control in the early 16th century, imprinting their culture and influence onto this Asian gem. Across the South China Sea, Macau was another region that fell under Western rule. The Portuguese once again established a foothold in the mid-16th century. Macau flourished under Portuguese administration, serving as a crucial gateway for Western traders into China. Then we have Singapore, a small island at the tip of the Malay Peninsula. The British, seeing its potential as a trading post, seized control in the 19th century. Singapore would later evolve into one of the most prosperous cities in the world, its development heavily influenced by British rule. Hong Kong, a vibrant city off the southern coast of China, was another region greatly impacted by Western occupation. The British took over Hong Kong in the mid-19th century, transforming it into a significant global trading hub. Finally, there's Vietnam, a Southeast Asian nation with a rich cultural heritage. The French began their colonization in the mid-19th century, profoundly influencing Vietnam's architecture, language, and cuisine. The Western occupation, initially driven by trade and conquest, would eventually leave a profound impact on these Asian nations. From the bustling streets of Singapore to the French-inspired architecture in Vietnam, these countries bear the indelible marks of Western influence, a testament to a period of history that continues to shape Asia's identity in the modern world. Give a like and subscribe if you enjoy the contents of this video so far. Now let's continue. Culture, the essence of a society's identity, was not left untouched by the Western powers. First off, language. The Western occupation shone a spotlight on European languages, most notably English, French, and Portuguese. These languages seeped into the local vernacular, with words adopted into everyday conversation. Even today, in places like Singapore and Hong Kong, English is one of the official languages, a testament to the enduring linguistic influence of the West. Next, let's look at education. Western-style education was introduced, promoting critical thinking, creativity, and individuality. The education system in many of these countries was revolutionized, with schools being established to teach in the Western style. Over time, this led to a significant shift in the way knowledge was imparted, moving away from the traditional rote learning methods. Today, the influence of Western education is evident in the international schools and universities that dot these nations. Religion, too, was influenced. The Western powers brought with them Christianity, a faith that was largely unfamiliar to the Asian continent. Churches were built, missionaries spread the word, and slowly but surely, Christianity took root in some areas. Today, it's not uncommon to find thriving Christian communities in these countries, coexisting harmoniously with the native religions. Finally, social customs. The Western influence brought about changes in societal norms and customs. For instance, societal roles and family structures saw shifts, with concepts of individual freedom and equality gaining prominence. Clothing styles, too, saw a transformation, with Western attire becoming increasingly common. The cultural landscape of these Asian countries was forever altered, creating a unique blend of East and West. This blend, this fusion, is visible even today, in the languages spoken, in the education systems followed, in the religious practices observed, and in the social customs adhered to. A testament to the far-reaching influence of the Western powers, it's a legacy that continues to shape these nations, giving them a distinctive identity in the global arena. The Western occupation brought about significant economic changes in these Asian countries. At the heart of these changes was the introduction of capitalism. This was a radical shift from the traditional economies, which were largely agrarian and feudal. The Western powers, with their industrial prowess, brought forth the idea of a free market where goods and services are traded freely. Capitalism spurred an economic revolution. It led to the rise of private property and the profit motive. Businesses blossomed, wealth increased, and the standard of living improved. The agrarian societies that once depended solely on farming began to embrace manufacturing and commerce. This shift was not always smooth, and it led to significant socio-economic changes. Next came industrialization. The Western powers set up factories and industries, tapping into the vast resources and cheap labor available in these Asian countries. The result was a shift from an agrarian society to an industrial one. This change was profound and far-reaching. It resulted in urbanization, with people moving from rural areas to cities in search of jobs. It also led to the development of new skills among the local population as they adapted to these new industries. Then there was the introduction of modern banking systems. The Western powers brought with them sophisticated financial institutions and practices. These included central banking, commercial banking, and investment banking. The local economies, which had been based on barter trade and simple money lending, were transformed. The new banking systems provided the necessary capital for businesses and industries, fueling further growth. These changes, while significant, were not without their challenges. There were instances of exploitation, inequality, and social unrest. But overall, the economic transformation brought about by the Western occupation was largely positive. It laid the groundwork for the vibrant economies that these countries have today. The economic transformation spurred by Western occupation laid the foundation for these countries' modern economies. It is fascinating to see how these nations have embraced these changes and grown into economic powerhouses in their own right. These achievements of success and powerhouse could not be done without the changes in the political structures of these Asian nations under Western rule. Under the Western occupation, the political landscape of these nations was radically transformed. The Western powers introduced their style of governance, which was a stark departure from the traditional political structures that these nations had known for centuries. In place of absolute monarchies and feudal systems, Western-style parliamentary systems were introduced. These systems were characterized by representative democracy, where citizens had the right to vote for their leaders. This was a novel concept in many of these nations, where power had traditionally been concentrated in the hands of a few. Alongside parliamentary systems, the Western powers also implanted the rule of law. This meant that everyone, irrespective of their social status or political power, was subject to the law. The rule of law brought about a level of accountability and transparency which was often absent in the traditional systems. But the introduction of these Western political structures was not always smooth sailing. In many cases, it sparked a fight for independence. The people of these nations, though initially overwhelmed by the power and might of the Western powers, gradually began to resist their rule. They fought for their right to self-governance, to determine their own political destiny. The struggle for independence led to the formation of modern nation-states: Singapore, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Macau, Malacca. Each of these nations emerged from the ashes of Western occupation, stronger and more determined than ever. They adopted elements of the Western political structures, such as parliamentary systems and the rule of law, but they also adapted these structures to fit their unique cultural and societal contexts. Today, these nations are a fascinating blend of East and West, traditional and modern, with their political structures reflecting this amalgamation. They have taken the political systems introduced by the Western powers and made them their own, shaping their own political identities in the process. The political legacy of Western occupation continues to shape the governance of these Asian countries. The Western occupation has undoubtedly left an indelible mark on these Asian countries. Our journey through history brings us to a moment of introspection. We've seen the influence of the West on the cultural, economic, and political landscapes of Malacca, Macau, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Vietnam. But what does this influence mean? Well, it's a tale of two sides. On one side, we see the undeniable economic growth. The West introduced new trades, industries, and technologies, propelling these nations into the modern era. Singapore, for instance, transformed from a fishing village into a global finance hub, a testament to the power of Western economic models. And in Hong Kong, the British legal system still underpins one of the world's most significant financial centers. On the flip side, there's the loss of cultural identity, a price paid for such rapid development. Traditional forms of art, music, and architecture have often been overshadowed by Western counterparts. In Macau, Portuguese architecture stands alongside Chinese temples, a physical manifestation of cultural fusion, and sometimes confusion. The Western occupation also brought about social changes. Western education and language have become a bridge to global opportunities, but also a barrier for those unable to access them. And in Vietnam, the French influence is still seen in their cuisine, with baguettes and coffee standing as culinary reminders of a bygone era. Lastly, the political impact cannot be overlooked. Western democratic ideals have influenced the political systems of these countries, often clashing with traditional structures. The quest for self-governance has led to revolutions and reforms, shaping the political landscapes we see today. This reflection isn't meant to pass judgment, but to understand the complexities of history. The West's influence is neither wholly good nor entirely bad. It's a complex tapestry woven from threads of progress, loss, adaptation, and resistance. While the Western occupation era has ended, its influence continues to shape these Asian nations in the 21st century. The echoes of Western occupation are still evident in many aspects of these Asian countries today. As the wheel of time turns, it's fascinating to observe how the past continues to shape the present, and potentially, the future. Let's consider the global economic standing of these nations. Western influences, particularly in the fields of commerce and industry, have been instrumental in shaping their modern economies. Countries like Singapore and Hong Kong have embraced Western models of capitalism and have emerged as global financial hubs, attracting multinational corporations and investments from across the world. Meanwhile, Vietnam's transition from a centrally planned economy to a market-oriented one mirrors the economic restructuring seen in many Western nations. In terms of cultural dynamics, the fusion of Eastern and Western traditions has given birth to a unique blend of cultures. The Cantonese opera in Hong Kong, for instance, combines traditional Chinese storytelling with Western elements of drama and music. Similarly, in Macau, the iconic pastel de nata, or Portuguese egg tart, is a beloved snack, symbolizing the culinary amalgamation of East and West. Education is another sphere deeply impacted by Western influence. The adoption of Western-style education systems, with a focus on critical thinking and individuality, has helped these countries produce globally competitive graduates. Singapore's education system, often lauded as one of the best in the world, is a testament to this. The legal systems in these countries, too, bear the imprint of Western influence. Hong Kong's legal framework, for example, is based on the English common law system, ensuring a degree of continuity and stability that is attractive to international businesses. Lastly, the influence is seen in modern architectural landscapes. The skylines of these nations are dotted with Western-style skyscrapers, alongside traditional Asian structures, creating a striking visual testament to the blend of cultures. The story of Western occupation in Asia is a testament to the enduring impact of historical events on our present world. The history of Western occupation in Asia is a complex and multifaceted narrative. It's a tale of cultural fusion, economic reshaping, and political shifts. From the vibrant fusion of East and West in the cuisine of Singapore to the British-influenced legal systems in Hong Kong, Western imprints are indelibly marked. The economic landscape, too, has been redefined. The bustling ports of Malacca and Macau owe their prosperity to Western trade routes established centuries ago. Politically, the democratic principles embraced by many of these nations can be traced back to Western ideologies. These influences aren't just remnants of a bygone era. They continue to shape the modern world, defining the identity of these Asian nations in the global community. It's a testament to the resilience and adaptability of these countries, weaving foreign influences into their own unique tapestry. Well, there you have it. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to help us with our channel.